Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I'm here with my good friends Preston and Andrew Letts. They're real estate investors, run a turnkey operation in the Southeast, and doing some really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about the power of the turnkey model, both from an investor standpoint and the benefits for passive investors as well. So what's up, guys? Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Mike?
Yeah, good to see you. So let's talk a little bit about, I'm interested to talk about this. You have, I guess I probably know more about your background, Preston, as a property manager, then you got into fix and flips, did a lot of wholesaling, and then kind of made your way to turnkey and pulled Andrew into the business at some point. But maybe you guys could just share your background and your path of, I know we're going to talk about turnkey today, so like don't steal the thunder of everything we're going to talk about, but kind of how you found your way to turnkey, because you did a lot of stuff before this.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of a kind of roundabout way in terms of how we got to kind of the business model we're in and kind of focus. A lot of it starts with, my background. I've been in real estate since 2006. From that 2006 to 2017, I actually, did a lot of turnkey investing for myself, for clients, built a large property management company, sold that company to a nationwide company, and then got to really continue to see other markets, see kind of into other markets and kind of the power of investing, not locally through that. And then as we kind of were building our business, Peter and I realized we love the volume side of the business. We love the buy and rehab side, but we want to do things at a higher volume. And not only that, we do wholesale a little bit. We don't love wholesaling. And so kind of around 2021, when the market we were in was really starting to kind of turn and really into 2022, we're like, we've got to find just a better path, and also something that I think, fits more of the experience that we have. And so we actually switched markets and we both live in the Southeast. And so we were investing in Chicago and decided let's start doing things locally. That'd be a lot easier. I was a little hesitant. I didn't necessarily want to go back into property management, but, we're like, hey, we can be successful running a turnkey, model. I've done it before. And so from that, we started just kind of scouting markets and saying, hey, where is a really good, we want to start buying more rentals. Where's a really good area and market that, really fits the criteria that I feel like would make great, great rental, that produce really good rental opportunities and really good markets to invest in, over the next 10, 15 years. And so that's really what kind of spurred us to get into this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know that, like, historically, having been in the business for a long time and having had a podcast for a long time and interviewed everybody in the industry at this point, but a lot of turnkey folks too. I've just seen this evolution of, I remember the early days of where people were trying to convince people, especially on the coast, like in California, like you can buy rentals in far off lands, and there was a time where there was no technology to like monitor that. And now the tech is, there's always room for improvement, but it's amazing. Like you can be there without being there. Right. And I think there's definitely been an evolution of property managers too, because a lot of the early turnkey providers were not necessarily great managers, but in order to make that model work, you have to be a great manager. I think that's probably what you saw was like, there's other turnkey providers out there, but we're pretty proficient as property managers, and they kind of go hand in hand, right?
So a lot of my experience for my last business in Chicago, I did a lot of turnkey business myself. I then was asked to manage for two good-sized turnkey operators. And I saw the absolutely what you don't want to do side of turnkey investing. And we took on a bunch of clients that, didn't know really what they had invested in, didn't really understand the investment. and weren't really, very well educated. And so saw a lot of the bad of it, and some good. I mean, there, certainly some stuff that worked out. And so when we made the decision to get into this, we literally sat down and we're like, okay, if we're going to do it, we need to build it from the back forward. Let's not so much worry about the property. Let's really focus on, this is only successful if your clients are successful. And we know we're committing to a 5, 10+ year relationship with a property and a client. And so it's one of those things where, we look at everything we do as like, hey, if we don't do things the right way, we're creating a bad scenario, not only for us, but the investor. And, that's certainly not going to allow us to be successful long term. And so we really built everything backwards, forwards, and with a massive focus on the property management side, how it has to run, how it needs to work, how we run it today, really, so that the goal is to have the best experience for our owners as possible, and for the properties that they're buying to be great deals, and for them to do very well.
Yeah. And Andrew, I know on the sales side, I know you're heavily involved on the sales side of this. One of the benefits, I think I think from talking to you guys that you went down this path is wholesale and fix and flip. Although, you guys have been in Investor Fuel for a long time now. We've got a ton of people doing high volume and probably tens of thousands of deals through our group a year, right? But it's so transactional, right? I think one of the benefits of the turnkey side is you're looking for repeat business. Like, you want to build portfolios for people, and it forces you to perform at a higher level too, because it's not a one and done. It's like, if we ever want to do business with this person again, we have to treat them right, right?
Absolutely. We going back to Preston kind of mentioned that we're tying, we know we're going to be attached to the property and the investor for 10, 15 years. I kind of say it to the investors when I'm having a conversation with them. It's our baby, you're married to it. And it's, if we take care of it, and the properties perform, they're going to keep coming back, and they'll want to continue buying more properties if they're cash flowing and there's appreciation and they're not getting a ton of work orders and all of that. So yes, it's absolutely, selling. And it's really the number one thing that I start a conversation with is my brother's background is he built a successful, property management company, sold it, all of that. And so everything, our company is all built on that. Our staff, we've got a good bit more staff on the property management side than we do in any other area. And it's really to make sure that our owners, tenants are, having the best experiences possible.
Yeah. So given your background, you guys' background in property management, like, talk about like why, maybe like, if we're talking to other real estate investors right now, why the turnkey model makes sense over fix and flipping, when and why that makes sense. I know why it makes sense for you because you had the background there, but maybe if you were to be selling a course, we're not doing that here, but if you were to be selling a course on like why they should pivot their model, what are some of the kind of pros and maybe even some of the cons of running more of a turnkey operation?
I think, do you mind if I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest, and the reason why we are where we are, being from Chicago, we both grew up in Chicago. Preston stayed there. I came down to the Southeast. The rest of our family moved down. When we started looking at pivoting, it was, where can we find good rental properties? We could buy rental properties in Chicago all day long, but the three really big things that we focus on are rental yield, high rental yield, low property taxes, and landlord, coming from Chicago where everything is very tenant friendly, to being in a situation where, we're in a very landlord friendly. So I think that could kind of, if you were to look around the country and, what areas are good for, or what could be good for the turnkey model, I would say that those are really kind of the three biggest things. And I'd say the tenant landlord is really one of the bigger parts of it.
I'd also say, to piggyback on that is, and Andrew's absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly the reason why we chose the areas that we did for, someone that was like us, that was doing just a lot of investing. And we kind of really looked at it as, we like things that are consistent and predictable. One of the things that we wanted to build our business on consistency and predictability. And the fact that, look, we hit a lot of singles and doubles. And, that's really what we, kind of talk to our clients about, is like, look, we're not here. This isn't a get rich quick. This is, we make, we don't make massive margins. We don't have large, $80,000, $60,000 pops when we sell, property. it really comes down, it's a volume business, but there's consistency and predictability in what we do. We can go in a lot of cases, we compete against, some other decent companies in our market, and we win a lot because they mostly wholesale, and we can go in and our offer is usually better because we're going to take it down, we're going to buy it, we're going to do a really good rehab and then turn around and resell it. And so really for us, it's that consistency, predictability. And then the other side too is, we do a ton of direct to seller marketing. We also do right now, it's like almost 40% of our transactions come from MLS, wholesaler, scenarios where we have to spend $1 in marketing. Now we have a cost because we have, relationship acquisition managers out, driving, hundreds of miles to, uncover properties. But we really like the idea that we can go out and find deals without having to outlay money in marketing.
Yeah. And I think the model from an investor standpoint is good. If you have all the other pieces buttoned up, like if basically you have to be a great property manager, but that you have a recurring revenue stream, right? It's like so many people, especially wholesalers, they sell it and they never make another penny from that. Well, rehabbers as well, but it's a chance to have some recurring revenue model from the deals you found and maybe over a longer period of time, squeeze more juice out of that fruit, I guess.
And I also think too is along with that is, a lot of first-time investors, they're starting from ground zero. And our clients are not starting from ground zero. They're starting from, we've done hundreds and hundreds of rehabs. I've managed, thousands of properties. And so we're picking properties in areas that we say, hey, this is the kind of property you want to invest in. And here are the characteristics, et cetera. And so I think when, you piggyback on, we're giving them a really big jump and head start into, success with a rehab property, to minimize, potential work orders or problems, a tenant in place that, is, a good management company. And not only that, along with the ability to invest in other markets. I mean, we have clients they kind of laugh when they hear the prices that we're selling properties for. I mean, we might go up to 275 in some of our sales when we get into, some, Atlanta product, but a lot of our stuff is 165, 195, 220. We get a lot of West Coast clients that are like, they haven't heard, they automatically assume that we're investing in like the ghetto. And we're like, no, these are actually nice areas. Come visit. And they drive around and they're like, holy cow, we didn't think there were properties that, at these price points.
Right. Yep. Yep. So how do you guys navigate the current market for rentals? I guess when you're talking to your clients, given the current interest rates and the dynamics going on. And so how do you navigate that?
So we give when we're selling a property, some kind of promotional stuff. We give 2% seller concessions to buy down the rate. We have the ability, because we are the property management company, to give, we can give a certain amount of years of free property management, to help the investment, kind of kick off on the right foot. So those are two of the, bigger things that we've done to
That's great.
kind of, go at the interest rates.
Yeah. And a lot of our clients right now, we had one of their lenders that reached out and they're like, look, they were kind of, trying to get some of their business. And they're like, hey, the average, with buy down rate wise, we're seeing is like, a little bit below 6 to maybe 6.25. So from an interest rate standpoint, and then when we, throw in, we offer some, to help buy down, and then, a little bit towards closing costs, and then some, property management, a year free property management, that makes up that offers a significant discount and gives, put somebody into, a property that, we have a good interest rate now, 6%, low sixes is still a very good interest rate, which most people,
Right.
Still don't think it's true, but
Very spoiled. Yeah.
yeah, it's still a very good interest rate. And, and then all the other benefits associated with being in a turnkey property. We have a lot of very smart clients that know and understand the benefit of doing that now and as opposed to waiting.
Yeah. No, and I think we all know rates will go down at some point, especially I think we all know now for sure they're going down at some point in the next year for sure, if not sooner. But that's great. Yeah, when I look back, I mean, having done thousands of podcasts, having a rental portfolio myself, having flipped, hundreds of houses myself, like my biggest regret is that I didn't keep more rentals. Like because we've generated tremendous, net worth from a relatively small number of rentals. And I was only keeping about 10% of what I was flipping. It's like, man, I wish I would kept another 100 or 150, but that's hindsight. But it's easy to look going forward. It's like, yeah, whatever's going on with interest rates. I mean, the truth is most of my rentals we bought from 2009 to 2012. And a lot of our interest rates were around 6.5%,
Yeah.
even over those years. So even in the years where interest rates were relatively low, coming out of the last downturn for investment type properties, the interest rates were higher than what an owner occupant was getting, at least for me.
It's funny you say that because Andrew and I, we don't argue about it, but it's like a constant. We should be keeping more, and we keep saying, all right, we're going to set a goal of, X number for the year, and then we get so much demand. We get so much demand for our properties that it's like we have more buyers that want to buy a lot of times, and we have product, and it's like, well, we said we were going to keep more, and so we're constantly in that that kind of fighting a little bit of that battle. We're happy right now. We've got 7 that are headed towards getting refinanced, and so we find that we're like, look, the year end's coming. We have got to start putting some more because we're going to be really upset next year, cash tax wise, if we don't.
Yeah. You just have to buy more, though. That's the key, right?
That's what we're working on.
Yeah. So with that said, I mean, you told me, I don't know if you want this out there, but you bought a lot of houses last month, one of your best months ever, which is great. And you're starting to build now too, right? Ultimately build to rent, which has been a theme for the past couple of years, especially with more institutional type companies. So talk about that model a little bit and the benefits of that.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. We kind of stumbled across this kind of into last year when we were out at a big investor conference, and Andrew and I were working the booth, and we had people come by, and they're like, really love, they love our markets. They love Southeast, Middle Georgia, close to Atlanta, et cetera. And a lot of them, kept asking, I like the rehabs, but do you have new construction? I really want new construction. And so we just kind of figured from that, and then a couple other events we were at where I'd say 7 out of 10 investors were going, hey, we want new construction. And so we started looking at it and going, we hadn't even really thought about, heading that direction. And then after, kind of seeing the demand, we started, doing some research and looking into it. We're like, all of the markets that we're currently in are, there is a housing shortage in all of them. And, there's not a lot of builders that are, making, massive, to plays in those markets. So we said, why don't we look into that? And so within 30 days, we'll break ground. We bought 12 lots. We've got another, I think we're getting ready to put another 5 or 6 under contract. And so, we'll be breaking ground on our first batch here in 30 days. And we're really excited because we are able to take kind of all the years of, hey, this is what we really see our tenants really want, investors really want, like all of that, and put it together and then looking at what other build to rent communities are doing and where they're having success, and to be able to kind of package that all together. Really, really excited about that, and putting together a lot of 3-bed, 2-bath, maybe a 4-bed, 2-bath, single family home on a slab, and good emerging markets that right now the migration path showing a lot of growth, and there's a lot of community investment and a lot of external investments coming in. And so we also really like the idea of being able to really get really targeted and pick the areas that we want to invest in, as opposed to we're waiting for the phone to ring from all the marketing we're doing, and it's like, man, we really like to do something there, but we just don't get any phone calls. We don't get, we send mailers, we run our TV, we do all that, but nobody's calling. And now that allows us to be really targeted and say, no, we want to be in these markets and areas because we know and we see and know the growth will be there.
So Andrew, share a little bit about the benefits. If we're talking to investors now, like those that are interested, I say talking to the passive investor, right? You got probably a lot of your passive investors are professionals, executives, doctors and lawyers and folks that are good at making active income and need a place to put it passively. That probably describes a lot of your avatar that's buying, I would assume. Maybe talk about the benefits to those that I've had it around me for years. Like there's always people that are like, I teach active investing. I surround myself with active investors, and there are always the people that like want to do it, but they don't have time, but they have money. And so, this is the beauty of that model is they can do it passively. So maybe talk about some of the benefits to them if some of them are listening.
Absolutely. And I think the kind of hands-off approach, in terms of you're not getting a call about somebody doesn't know how to change their air filter, and so it's caused more issues. So there's just a lot of the folks that we have invested in our stuff. The majority of them, I'd say, are from the West Coast. We have a lot of everybody's coming from a decent distance to us, but I'd say the keys and some of the bigger things that we do is Preston, from his background and being a GC and renovating properties, and back when him and Kyla originally joined Investor Fuel, all of the knowledge and what that's brought to us and what we can do. So every property that we sell is, fully, when we say fully turnkey, it's a full renovation. Everything is brand new. So we're selling like new construction properties. We personally like to stick with, four-sided brick ranches if we can. We don't do a lot of basements. We prefer anything, as few issues as possible. The big CapEx types of issues that we could have come up. The renovations, again, everything is, even light switches, outlets, everything is fully brand new. And then the property management side, and what our property management and our expertise and our, really building the business around our property management side, and what that can provide to the investors, and then really us being able to show them the numbers and what we can do in terms of the purchase price and the rent and the taxes and all of the items that go into, making a really good investment, a good investment. We kind of go through all of that stuff and check off all the boxes, and really, that's where we're making, our biggest headways and getting a lot of repeat buyers that.
I think the other thing too, along with that is, kind of the way we structure everything is a lot of the buyers they love the price points, they love the returns, and they like the fact that they're buying into immediate cash flow. We have we offer, if they ever buy, and it doesn't happen often, but if they do buy property from us and it isn't rented, we actually sign an owner lease with them, that we will, a seller lease, that will cover the rent payments until we have a tenant in place. So they love that. It just it lowers the risk for them from the default, or just not having a tenant. And then the other piece is a lot of our clients really like the time and time intensive, that just it's less time intensive. They just don't have to there's not that much time that goes into not only the management, but the the sourcing and all of that associated. And then the professional property management. We overstaff our property management company. One of the things I see is the reason why a lot of property managers struggle is it's a really tough business. The margins are super slim. And the only way to really have a great property manager, you have to be overstaffed. You just have to have the bodies to do the work. And we're able to do that because of the model. And so we went out very early on, and I hired a very high level executive from one of the real estate funds, and she runs and oversees the property management side of the business. Her and I really do it together, and we hire and pay our folks in that side really, really well, because we want them to stay. We don't want them to go anywhere. So we get really good people, and then we make sure that we have plenty of them, so that we can lease in the right time frame. Our work orders can turn in the right time frame. We have the people to make the collection calls, all this stuff. It's a very manual business. We try to make it as technology friendly as possible. Sometimes still at the end of the day, you got to pick up the phone. You got to go by and see if somebody's there, and figure out a solution. We want to have the people to do that.
I think most property managers in a lot of businesses, they run so lean that when something happens, they're not staffed for it. And, that's a problem when, because obviously your average client is like anybody, like they don't need anything most of the time. But when they need something, the experience that they have during what's a stressful time for probably you is a stressful time for them. Like that's what they're going to remember year round. So they might not need anything 364 days a year, but the one day they need something, you better provide a good experience.
Right? Got to have, you have a property manager that wants to go on vacation. So that there has to be a plan for
right.
who's handling their email and all of the issues and things that go on. And if that person's out sick. And so I have been through all of that. And so we have communication processes in place and platforms that we use, so that, a massive issue isn't sitting in somebody's email and they're, out sick or in another country.
Right. Yep. Yep. Awesome. Good stuff. So Would you mind, Preston? You guys have been in the group for a long time now inside of Investor Fuel. Would you mind just sharing your experience of being a part of the Investor Fuel Mastermind?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it was, I think 2019, we were kind of looking around. I'm a big believer. I mean, I built my last company on being a part of masterminds and being a part of groups that, get together and meet. And I'm a, big believer in the power of the mastermind. I got that from reading a lot of books early on and the benefits associated with that. And really what, Investor Fuel did for us is it gives you a lot of confidence because you're around other folks and you get a chance to hear what's working in markets, what's not working in markets. And I'm a big believer, it basically helps you buy speed. It helps you to look around and go, hey, what's everybody doing? What do I want to try to do? What do I not want to try to do? I talked to this person and they tried something this way. And so at the end of the day, it really comes down to buying speed. And not only that, just the connections we've made, we're still very, very, still have a lot of, lifelong great friends that have come from being a part of Investor Fuel and the connections that come from that have helped us to, kind of really move our business forward. I've traded days, consulting days with, I've gone to visit some, members' offices and they, and vice versa. And we've done like kind of reverse consulting and all that just helps us to just allow us to move our business forward at a much faster rate than we'd be able to on our own.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for being a part for, I guess, about 6 years now. So that's amazing.
Yep.
Hey, Andrew, if folks want to connect with you guys, obviously you're a turnkey provider. If they want to learn more about how to work with you guys in any way, like where can they go?
Our website is Turnkey Property Investments. That is the best place to go to. I can easily share my contact information and get that over to you.
Yep. TurnkeyPropertyInvestments.com.
We'll add a link down below in the show notes too. So, well, I appreciate you guys and looking forward to all your continued success and helping if I can and watching you guys along the way. So appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having us. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Have a great day. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Turnkey might be a good thing. If you're an active investor, it might be something you should consider adding to your model. The property management really is key. So if you're not good at it, find somebody that you can partner with maybe. And if you're looking for a passive investments, you should definitely check out Preston and Andrew. They're doing some amazing things in Southeast. So appreciate everybody for joining us on the show today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.